All right. Welcome, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Prep Phase. I am joined by my companion, my peer, my friend, three-time Challenger League superstar, Oreos. Today, we are joined by Penguin and creators, absolute Pro League superstars of Parabellum. Gentlemen, I will say both of your cameras are not working, but that's okay. Yeah, that's okay though. It's okay. In the for the time being, we can get into it. We can get into our juicy little questions we have.
We should fix the cameras,
Agreed, agreed. But
More
anyway,
fun.
if any of you guys watching don't know who these people are, Creators has been in NAL for a pretty long time now. How long has it been? Creators like two years, year and a
It's been
half.
about 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years. So a mainstay pro league player. Then Penguin obviously played at SI 20, right? SI 21,
21,
SI 21,
21.
21. Yeah, 21. Challenger League, dominated Challenger League, and now he's in the NAL with PB. So it's been quite the ride all the way through Challenger League. But
Yes, sir.
Let's not forget
how
one series off of qualifying yet again this year.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
We just
yep.
happened to lose to the
The team that
world
won
champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on invite.
A little
Truly,
unfortunate, but oh well.
truly unlucky. Yeah, I'm actually the teams that made it through NAL were what? DZ, OXG,
SSG,
TSM. Yeah,
Sonics, and
SSG and Sonic. Yeah, yeah,
basically like the ones you expect to make it.
yeah. It's kind of weird how that played out. Though, like TSM didn't even make. They had to go through qualifiers, but then they just like looked so good at invite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no.
now you got to play against those guys in pro league on the stage.
Yes,
So
There we
sir.
go. All right.
are the cameras working?
Alright, camera's
Oh
working
yeah.
now? Alright, let's go.
All right, nice, nice.
Jesus.
Um, so, Joe, would you like to ask the first question to our guests?
Huh.
Or
You can do the first one. You can do the first
all
one
right,
while
so
I do
first,
this.
the first question I gotta ask is, when you guys were originally Parabellum as, or not Parabellum, Altiora, I think, if
Yep.
my R6 history is correct, and you guys, they merged CAPL and USPL at the time, and they told us that all the Canadian Pro League orgs were going to be taken to the NAL, but that didn't work out because of COVID and the visas and all that. So basically, my question is, how did it go this time around with the visas and the team house now that it's a land league and just like the logistics and stuff? How was the flight? So what was all that like transitioning from Challenger League to Pro League?
Um I mean like I think yeah, it was definitely a process that was like handled more on like the orgs end. We kind of just like sat around and gave information. Uh, like they asked for like our passports and like a bunch of like information that we had to fill out for visas. We had to get like letters of recommendation and all that. Um, so we basically just provided like all the information that was needed, and then just kind of like went on about our days as normal.
Right.
Like still scrimmed, still dry ran. We kind of just like we like assumed we were in pro league, even though there was like a lot of things that needed to happen um, for us to actually like be here. Like we had to apply for the license and find a house, get our visas through. But I mean, luckily everything's gone through like relatively without any like major hiccups. Um, so I mean,
Yeah, I
it
got
it was
a
kind of just like a normal day for us.
got a great follow-up question to that. How nice is the team house? How nice is Parabellum treating you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
over
looking
there?
in the background here. It's like got the TV in the background with the
Yeah,
lighting.
I mean, yeah, the team house is pretty nice. Like our practice area is actually really nice. We were able to fit all our desks across one wall. Um, but it's not like a like I know like a lot of like DZ and Xset and all those guys have like an office. Um, but I don't know. Like ours is like more like a house. Like there's like rooms. Like it's like got carpet. It's like a homey feeling. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's what I
think
was gonna ask. So you guys practice in the the house where you guys live at, or do you guys have like separate facilities that you guys practice?
uh I mean we practice in the house.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I know like Beast Coast they have like apartments and stuff. I think that they live in, and then they have like an office where they go and play. I'm pretty sure, and I know I think some of the other teams have that too. But yeah, how did you decide who got what room? Was there a fight for it, or like how was that
Draw
decided?
straws.
Yeah, I'll let Tim answer this one because he's got a funny story about it.
So no, so Keegan Penguin picked his room right off the bat. Like he's happy with what he had.
Pause for
Everybody
one
else sort
second.
of.
Pause for 1 second. Your link,
Okay,
you have the
okay.
audio thing, so we're hearing you twice.
Okay. Tell me what I need to do. Oh, I need to turn off the audio link. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the audio part of it.
Okay.
To no
Okay,
audio. 'Cause
Okay.
now I'm getting audio.
I muted. It should be muted.
Yeah,
That
it's
should
good.
be fine
It's
now.
great.
Okay. So Penguin picked his room. He's happy with what it is. He got his own like secluded, nice room. You know, everybody else sort of got pushed into the corner rooms. Me and Eska were the ones who wanted the master. I challenged him to a best of 5 rock paper scissors, which I won handedly in a 3-1 victory. So now I'm happy living in the master.
Easy.
Yeah. I picked the room that's like on a different floor from everyone else. So I got like my own bathroom and right next
Dude,
to the living room, so it's
you're
pretty
just
nice.
just running things, Penguin. That's crazy. Is
Yes,
it like
sir. Yes, sir.
like a longevity thing, or is it because you're like technically the captain, or
No, it's just like I was like I like this room, and
just
everyone was like,
first
okay.
come first serve?
Yeah.
They bowed down to the king.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was no contention. So
What's it like living with? I know. Did you live with Spirits for a while? Or I thought Spirits lived with
yeah.
one
So
of you. So you
me,
guys have
me,
already lived together before.
yeah. Me and Spirits lived together for like a year, and then like for stage 3, he went back home. But
Yeah.
but yeah. Um, yeah. Ever since like Altiora, all the way to like the end of stage 2, he lived with me. But I mean, it's different now, like living in like a team house.
Yeah. What's
Um,
like the environment like? Like
It's
imagine
got
you
to be
have
a lot more like
like
professional.
beef and scrims. Like I know when I had scrims, like I would have like me and Surf would argue, or me and Axe would argue. Like, is it awkward like when you're sitting right next to the person you're arguing with, or does it like help with that like environment at all? Just like
Um, I mean, one thing that's nice, like about our team, is like we actually like each other. I can say the same for a lot of teams, or even just players in the NIL. I think there's a couple teams that are just like,
Friendship league.
yeah, I mean, they butt heads, but I mean, like for us, like I enjoy playing with everyone. Like I'm friends with everyone, even though like people make fun of like old friendship teams or whatever. But I think like it is important to make sure you do enjoy like the people you play with,
I,
while also like maintaining like a competitive team.
yeah,
Uh,
I guess it's just
uh,
like hard to like. Obviously, you want to like if you're spending 8 hours at a time, or you're literally living with them.
yeah,
Obviously, you want to like them, but at the same time, how do you separate that into like making sure you're staying focused at like when you're practicing? Because like you are like working, like that's like your job is to
yeah.
play
I mean,
competitively. So,
like we're still like working and like doing like our drills and our scrims and dry runs and all that stuff.
yeah,
I think the one thing that's like nice about like living in a team house is there's no like you can't just like okay like that's it like we've argued, we've had like a disagreement, like I'm just like getting off Discord.
right,
It has to be resolved before like you get off for the night.
yeah,
Um, so like things get done like a lot quicker, because they don't like drag on into the next day. So if I'd like think Eska played something like horribly or Kool-Aid made like a misplay or like we made a bad call, um, like it has to be addressed like in the moment. They're like you can't just like get off Discord and forget about it. So but it's nice. I enjoy it.
right. And then so here's the first heavy hitting question. So obviously you're talking about like all y'all living together and the camaraderie you guys had. You teamed with Spirits for so long. What was it like? Just like finding out that he was going to a different team, and then the same for Melted. Obviously, you spent less time with him, but still, like, how's the team like adjusted to the new pickups, and like, what was it like just when your best friend that you lived with for a year just decides to seek out another team? I guess.
Well, I mean, I think like people don't like really understand like what happened at the end. Um, like towards the end of like like the stage 3 Parabellum, like there was a lot of disagreements on how like the game should be played, and um it wasn't like a cohesive like unit. I'd say like after like we qualified for Pro League, that's when things started to get like really rough. Like there was a lot of arguing. Almost like every night there would be like a fight about like something, even if it was like something stupid.
Right.
So like for me personally, it wasn't like a huge surprise that like there was going to be a change. Like I had known like Spirits had like interest in joining like the XZ rebuild. Um, and like we knew like something was most likely going to happen. Um, but like when we qualified, like we said, all 5 players like have their spot. at least for stage one. Like I'm not gonna drop anyone
Right.
for stage one. It's the same thing with like Sonar and Euphoria when we qualified for invite. Like you got the spot, like you will play. Um, I mean, Robbie decided that he wanted to go to and try out for Mirage. We weren't gonna like hold him back and be like, no, like you have to play with us or whatever. So we were kind of just we were fine with it. I think like for us, like a change needed to happen. Um, and I mean, I think right now it's good because everyone's like back on the same page. Whereas like towards the end of um like relegations and close qualifiers, like there was a lot of disconnect.
Do you think the disconnect was because of like the results you guys were putting up in scrims, like the team just wasn't playing well, or was it just because like the meta was shifting with like the Finka buff at the time and like all the nades and all that, like, or is it just like just basically was it a disagreement on how to play the game, or was it butting heads because we're losing and we need to change how we're playing to perform better?
I feel like it was more like disagreeing on like how to play. Like, some people want to bunker for a bomb site, some people want to roam. And if the bunker didn't work, people would be like, oh, fuck this. Like, I don't want to bunker. And if the roam didn't work, people would be like, fuck this. I don't want to roam. Like, this is dumb. Um, and there would be like, parties like, okay, like these people want to bunker, these people want to roam, but there was like nobody wanted to compromise.
Right. So there's
Um,
no trust in like the strategy basically at that point.
Yeah. So we would try and like, okay, we have like one bunker, one roam. Um, but like if it didn't work, like a bunker didn't work and people want to roam, they would like reinforce their idea like I'm right, like everyone else is wrong. Um, which kind of like caused like even more like arguing and even more disconnect. But yeah, that's kind of just like how it was. Um, but yeah.
And then for y'all's coaches, do you make the strategies or is it like a combination of both? Because I know some teams have like the coaches make all the strategies, and then some the coaches just kind of there as like a mental coach where they like keep everybody calm and do all that stuff. Like, what is VBM's role on the team?
I mean, for us, like VBM makes like a lot of our strategies. He'll come up with like a lot of like the base ideas or like the like okay, like we're gonna try this. And then like us players will like tweak it. Obviously, like some people will come up with their own ideas or own like attack strats or defenses or whatever. And write them down and we'll use those. But I'd say for the most part, like VBM is more like on the strategic end. Like he comes up with a strategy or an attack. Um, and gives it to us. Says, do you want to tweak anything? Do you want to change anything? We'll either say yes, let's change this and then discuss it, or no, like I think like let's just run it as is.
Right.
And then we'll play it out and see like what to change. But no, he's very good at like just being more on like the strategic end and being like an unbiased voice.
Okay. And then my last question, just for you, Penguin, before I hand it over to Joe. So, how are the new pickups looking? How are scrims looking? If you don't mind me asking the results and all that, and how is the team like gelling together? Because Wimpy's only going to be playing for a stage right now. Is that the plan? And then Blaz is coming on. So, how is the team handling like that situation with Blaz? Like, he obviously still interacts with the team, right? Like, does he come to all y'all's
Yeah,
practices and all
yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
how's that going?
I mean, things are going good. I mean, scrims like obviously when you add two new players, it'll take time to like gel. But I think like since we got into the team house, we've really like started to hit our stride with like our performance and playing together and like having cohesion. Um, and Blaz shows up to like scrims every day and like watches. Also like comes up with his own ideas and like is still participating like in like I think he was playing in like a LAN tournament in France with a couple of his friends. So
Okay.
he's still like playing competitively and watching like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's going pretty well.
That must suck for him having to stay up. It's what is it like 2 a.m. in the morning when you guys are
Yeah,
streaming?
yeah. Well,
He's grinding.
yeah,
I respect it. That
yeah,
must be
yeah.
tough.
Yep. And I mean, we're not the first team to have people on like different time
Time
zones. Like
spends. Yeah.
so, like BBM is in India, so
Oh,
he
I didn't know that. He's in India.
yeah,
I
he
didn't,
lives in India, so like our scrim started like 4 a.m.
cool. He's
There's the
coming in with
pizza.
the
Yeah,
pizza. Let's
yeah.
go.
Coming clutch.
Oh,
You want to say hi, Jameson?
Hello.
What's going on?
Oh yeah.
Well, glad to hear you guys are settling in nice, and I think the expectations for y'all's team should be pretty high. I'm excited to watch y'all play, especially because I've played against you guys. So that's my biggest accomplishment is Beating you guys on coastline, the best of one. That's the highlight of my career.
Yeah, yeah. That was a fun game, bro. I will always remember that game because we threw that 1v3,
With
but it was
Fox.
also like, yeah,
Yeah.
but it was also like I think we were one of the only Challenger League teams to ever play all 7 maps in
Yeah,
one singular stage.
Yes,
You were.
you
So,
absolutely certainly are with best of ones.
yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm just glad I did not have to be, in that group. I got to play in the other group and still get relegated. But anyways, creators. So look, I think this is very clear and obvious from everybody outside looking in. There's a large disconnect, or not disconnect, but a large difference between the structure of XSET and the structure of PB. Coming in, seeing what like two different changes, you will be coming into a roster that seemingly is very structured, and then like not even just last stage, but XSET just seemed like over all three stages, like respectfully, it just seemed like everything was in shambles, and performances weren't as bad given that, but just like outside looking, it just seemed in shambles. So how are like you specifically adjusting to playing a completely different structure?
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you look at it like that, that is sort of what happened. Things were in shambles for one reason or another. Like, it had to do with like, some people not meshing. The whole ideology of how we were playing from mostly start to finish, as soon as we picked up Jarvis as a coach, was like almost like strategical excellence. Like you want to play something as best as it can be played, and you're not really like leaving room for, like fluidity and like other aspects of the game. So coming onto this team, it's like it's a different look into it. Like I wouldn't have thought it any other way. Like when I first joined the team, the first thing that I mentioned to VBM, the coach, is like, if you guys have something that works, don't change it for anything. Like and until you start seeing issues with the system in place, like there's no reason to change it. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it, basically. So I've just been sort of trying to fill and make improvements to what they already have going, I guess, instead of trying to rebuild and structure a system from the ground up, sort of like we had to do towards the beginning of Xset. And obviously the success wasn't at all there for Xset. Like there were problems that came, here and there for whatever reasons. But here, like they already have their support system in place. They have their ideology of how they want to play the game, and it's just sort of filling the gaps and being what they need in a person. So
Also got
about
another
it.
question. It's kind of similar, I guess. From Veto in chat, he's come up with a question. I kind of have the same question as well. From what I heard, at least, what was made public, I guess you were for the most part the leader of that XSET team, kind of like the franchise player. I guess leading alongside Filthy. But coming into this team where you don't really have to be that straight up leader of the team. You don't have to be the face of the team because you have Penguin there. Does that take off the pressure off your shoulders to just be able to go out and do you and just like play the game that everybody knows like you can play?
I mean, sure, like there's a lot of stress on Xset, and it's been lifted a lot now that I don't have to like have any sort of, leadership role on this team. I don't really consider that I had too large of one on Xset either, but what I will say that I had on Exit is that after we made a decision to move forward without Thomas, there was a large like gap in voice that we didn't have, and I had to step up to fill it because we didn't have very vocal members on the roster. Somebody has to like lead the discussions with the dry runs or this and that. So yeah, that was sort of my responsibility there. But coming onto this team, like we have Keegan and Keegan Penguin and the coach VBM, who are all taking up that responsibility. So all that's left to do really is my own responsibility, which is to play the game in the server, I guess.
So what is your, if I can interject, what is your role now compared to what it was on XSET versus what it was when you're all the way back on Tempo? Because when you're on Tempo, you put up really, really impressive numbers
Michael
considering
Jordan
Tempo
numbers,
was
to
a
be
bottom
honest.
two team. So how do you feel like you're going to play this stage compared to versus XSET versus what you did on Tempo?
I think part of the reason why I had so much success on Tempo is because they had an understanding of the game and they built a support system that focused primarily around my entry skills, and it really allowed me to like step into the role and shine on it. What I try to do on Exit, really, what we all try to achieve was building the structure around it to begin with. Like just quality siege gameplay, droning, map control, execute, post plant. The typical stuff that you'll hear 100 times over. It's just building the concepts and the fundamentals. But like I said, problem here, problem there. It just never came to fruition. So coming to the team, they already have a majority of it figured out, and I'm stepping into like a predetermined preset idea of how they like to play the game, and I can I can sort of understand it a lot better now, and compared to what I was doing at the time on Tempo or Exit, so I'm filling into and you know just doing what Spirits did before me, really. Like they had their system in place, and that's why Spirits could perform as well as he did. Not to take anything away from Spirits, but a lot of it had to do with the support system that was behind him is true with any other team. So I think that's something that's apparent here, and that's what I'm coming into.
Yeah, so you are going to be on that primary entry role. Like, you were primary entry for Exa and Tempo as well, right? Or were you more of a lurking role on those? I can't remember exactly.
Well, for for Tempo back in the day, like I was more of a first entry, second entry. The roles weren't really determined at that point. Like Mitch Dream just ran in. I traded him a lot, but I also ran into. It wasn't like anything too hard stuck. Like it wasn't one person going in front of another 100% of the time. Like it was just an entry system. Exit in the beginning, things were a little bit more concrete. I was more of a second entry, like lurk type. I followed in behind Sweater in the beginning, which was as it should be. Sweater runs in, he kills people. That's how it goes. And then back going onto this team, like it's something that I haven't done for a long time, be a primary entry, but it's something that I'm stepping into a lot more successfully than I would have thought that I could have originally, like trying out for the role.
And then, yeah, Keegan, speaking of trying out, how many people did you guys try out before you decided to go with creators and Wimpy, if you don't mind me asking? And feel free to say the names that you tried out or not if you don't want to. Just how long did it take before you're like, all right, this is who we want to pick up and this is why?
Um, I think we tried out like 10 or 12 people like total
Wow,
across like a week and a half.
that's a lot of
Um,
tryouts.
Wow, in a week and a half.
yeah, I mean we were doing like well we were also told by Parabellum that like if an international player was you know a possibility like they're fine with that. Obviously that's how we got Blaz. So we were also doing like tryouts in the morning. Like I think like Wimpy's first tryout was against Dan Juan Kia like when they were at SI and it was like 9 in the morning for him. So we like we were doing a lot of like tryouts. But I think like almost like immediately like we knew like we had a feeling for who we were probably going to get just based off like the first tryout. Um, Based off the first tryout, we were like, okay, like this is like our list, like our top five, top six or whatever. And then like the second like tryout that everyone had like was more like a okay, like this is gonna solidify it. Um, so I think like yeah, we did quite a few tryouts. But yeah, I we made our selection pretty pretty quickly. I'd say like a week and a half to fill uh two like roles is pretty quick, but yeah.
Right. So I guess moving on from that into like the new stuff with the new season changes, the new operator, um, the new maps. What do you guys think about Skyscraper and Theme Park coming back into the map as well as Border? Do you guys like how they play? Do you think they're too attacker side, too defender sided? And like, how do you think it's going to shake up the competitive pool? I guess.
Um I mean I think like people are still trying to figure out like how to play the maps. Like, obviously like there's ideas on okay, like this is what like we want to do. But in practice sometimes it doesn't like the theory isn't always good as like the practice. You'll be like, okay, we want to take this control and do this attack, but you get into the scrim and it's like okay, like this is just not feasible. So I think people are still figuring out like how to play the new maps. I think like how it'll shake things up is like map bans, like with 9 maps being in the pool, you can't just play like Oregon, Villa, Clubhouse, like you know like the basic maps, right? You have to expand your pool or you're gonna get like punished really really hard on map bans. So I think it's forced teams to like actually like learn how to play more maps because I know like even like in CL when there was only 7 maps, people would be like, oh, we can only scrim like these 4 maps. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yep.
You don't play like any of the other 3? And people would go like, nope, like we only play these 4. So
Yeah,
you can't really do that
That's
anymore.
exactly what we did on Nemesis because we weren't good enough to like have like like a huge map pool. So we literally would only like before the stage started, like we even knew we were gonna do it because like we scrimmed Coast and Consulate and we were ass at both of them. So we literally like figured out what 4 maps can we play, and we would basically only scrim like the 4. And then like if we got like a pro league scrim or something like that, we would like scrim the maps that we weren't good at because like we needed the
Yeah.
practice. But like we definitely only scrimmed 4 maps. But like even in CL quals this time, like through because I subbed with JJ's team, it definitely felt like it was actually better for quals because the way that
Oh,
best
you
of
can't
threes
just pug it.
work, you have
yeah.
you only get
Pug
one
stacks
map in.
we're getting slammed in the CO
You
quals
only get
because
one
Yeah.
map in.
yeah,
So
because
for a team that actually has a strong map pool, it is way stronger. And it's maybe not as big on that in Pro League because of best of ones, even in CL best of ones, but like just
Mhm.
having to be able to play more maps. Obviously in Pro League it's a little different because like, you know, everybody kind of needs a 9 map pool. You can't really get by with that. Like in limited
Yeah.
CL at times with 5 maps in your pool, 4 maps in your pool. But
Yeah.
also Penguin, I don't mean to like, you know, also move on a little quickly, but attack or repick, and that coming into the fray, I will say, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to watch you guys play. Every time watching Parabellum, literally for the last like year and a half, 2 years, it has been very fun seeing how creative you can get at certain periods of time. So with attack or repick, being able to literally do whatever you want in attack, how's that make you feel? You don't really have to say anything, obviously, especially with the season coming up, like right around the corner. But how do you enjoy playing with it?
I think like I enjoy it because I think it just makes like how we want to play the game like more like efficient. So it's like okay, like you're no longer like just stuck with like your 5 operators. Like you can't just like on Oregon for example, like you bring 4 sets of nades and Hibana. Well, and it doesn't matter the bomb site. Well, now it's like okay, like for a meeting defense, let's bring like like this operator, or for like the shower like a dining defense, like okay, we can bring this lineup. And you can kind of like change your lineup like based on like what the bomb site is. They kind of like make your attacks like more efficient, or even just like have like alternate attacks. So we can be like, okay, like we're gonna do this attack. Like okay, everyone changes their operators to what they need for that attack, and instead of just like figuring it out and like having like a half-assed like alternate attack that still brings the same operators, you can change your operators, and you're more like it'll look cleaner in game. Like you'll see like teams, um, like not too many teams, I don't think, will be completely changing their lineup. Like, it won't be like, everyone goes like, rushing up. It'll be like, okay, like the Hibana will go to Thermite because it's better for the bomb site, and then they'll bring like a Capitao or a Ying or whatever, right? And it'll just look like more fluid instead of just like this shit like Hibana breach and then the Ying or Capitao or whatever it is, like just like tacked onto it because you had to make like a 6 pick. Um, and it's also like a lot less like guessing um for like what the bomb site is. Um because like when you had the 6 pick, you were like, okay, like I think this is, you know, a reading defense on Cafe. So let's 6 pick to this. And then you get into it and it's like, oh shit, it was, a cocktail. Um so now it's like, okay, like this is the actual bomb site, and it just makes it like I think it'll make it more like fluid.
I think the main concern people had when it first was announced and it first came is that it seemed like in the last like season or two, the meta is starting to shift from defense to attack, and the kind of timing, especially after invite. I could
Mhm.
be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the attack win percentage at invite was the highest of the recent majors, probably in a bit of time. So does this really shift meta to attack sided rather than defense?
No, I don't think so. I think it just makes like because there's still like upsides to the defense. Like you can still like they don't know like your whole lineup. Um, so you can like there's still like a lot of things you can hide. I think it just forces teams to play like more sound. Like you can't just have like, a super exploitable weakness in your strat. Like you have to, have all your bases covered before you run something. You can't just like, okay, like hopefully like this team doesn't figure it out. Because um, like they can drone like change the operators. So I think your just overall strategies have to be a lot more sound and like solid.
And then last thing about the new season, I feel like it's kind of glossed over, but Thorn will be available. Is that impactful at all? Like I haven't really seen her in ranked at all. Not that that's a great indicator, but do you think Thorn will be useful at all, or just completely
Um,
completely
I
useless?
I think the main thing Thorn has going for her is like a good gun and like a shield. Like her util's all right, but like it's nothing special. Like it's kind of just like a prox mine that you know does damage.
Yeah,
So I think like if placed like correctly or on like certain bomb sites, like you can funnel people to like move forward. Um, like with even if they don't want to, but like for the most part, like you can bait them out pretty easily. Like they activate like like right away, and you can just back up.
yeah,
But I think like her having a good gun and like a shield, um, she'll definitely be seen like occasionally.
yeah. I guess just like if you have a gap and you need a shield, like instead of running Alibi, maybe you run Thorn for the shield because they both have
Yeah,
just a gun and a shield basically. But
yeah,
I mean, Alibi does the 1.5. That's the problem. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Here, I'll be back in one second.
yeah, yeah, sure. Um,
I have a good question from somebody in chat. My dear friend Ugly Shark 951 creators. You can answer this before Penguin gets back. Uh, excluding your team, what was the best and worst roster change in your eyes in the NAL this season? I think you're muted.
might possibly be muted.
Yeah, quite possibly could be muted.
He just want to answer your question, man. He doesn't want to
Yeah,
shit his peers, man.
That's what it is. Okay, so
there we go.
I don't really know like a good answer for the best roster move. It's hard to say like which roster moves are good until they actually like come to fruition. Like you until you've seen the team play and they've like had successes or failures, you can't be like I can say, picking up, Wimpy was the best thing that Parabellum ever did, but until like until he's shown and done anything like with the roster move, I don't know. Like it's just nothing. But I mean, like I don't think there was that bad of a roster move aside from like if I had to name one bad roster move, I'd probably say it was like I guess it could be Knicks because it didn't seem like his team wanted to make that move. It seemed like more of the move from the org's standpoint, Mirage, like, and that is like a pretty big move for them considering like he was the biggest voice on that team. Yeah, being Knicks or IGL, whatever responsibility he held to the team, but like I don't know, he seemed like a pretty stable backbone for it, so seemed like a pretty bad move in my mind and a lot of other people's perspectives. But Mirage has finished their roster now, and I guess we'll have to see how they play this stage.
Right. I do like what you said though, because like I remember when Pambazoo got picked up for DZ, he like was coming off of like a bottom three finish in Challenger League. Like his team was really bad. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's gonna do terrible. He has no experience. Like, why'd they pick him up?" But then like he ended up being really, really solid, and like he was arguably could have been the rookie of the year for like all of CG Sports, which is super impressive. So yeah, I guess
Yeah,
you kind of gotta
exactly.
just wait and see how people play, because especially with it being on LAN, a lot of the CL guys have never played on LAN, so you don't know how they're gonna play on LAN versus online and all that stuff. So
For
Yep.
sure. Yeah, I mean it does come down to how they play. Like the same goes for the opposite. Like we pick up we pick up whoever else and it's they play they're the best pickup and then they play they suck or it's they're gonna be a shitty pickup and then they play and it's a Pambazoos. He's coming and having a crazy season. He's the best rookie of the year competition. Like it really doesn't matter what your opinion of the roster move is until you've seen him play as a team.
yeah, definitely.
Penguin, you weren't here when we asked this question, but somebody in
Yep.
chat said, excluding your team, what was the best and worst roster change in your mind in the NAL this season, or at least this stage?
Okay, well, I mean, like the best roster change had to have been Xset, like the whole team. Um, like they
I
couldn't
forgot
have,
about that.
they couldn't have got worse. Um, and the worst roster change, I don't know. I feel like I'm curious to see how Beast Coast plays because like kind of think like I don't know. I don't like the direction that their team's trying to go.
You're playing them first week, so
Yeah, this
are
is
you
Yeah, I mean,
easy win?
No, I don't think it'll be an easy win. I just think
I do.
like the direction they're trying to go, like just I don't think it makes like too much sense. I think they're just trying to do what like Rent Free wanted to do, but I just think they're going to do it worse. Um, but I mean, we'll see. Obviously, in a couple of days.
Right. Well, we don't want to keep you from your pizza, so last question I think from both of us is to each of you, which team are you most excited to play and like why? Do you have any vendettas that you need to settle or any background beef that there is?
I feel like this answer. I feel like we can know the answer from both, but
I mean, for me personally, I just want to play like Mirage and Xset. I mean, for
I guess
obvious reasons.
the old teammates,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, I'm just excited to like play. I mean, there's obviously been like, a dream come true for me. I've been playing for years to get to Pro League, and now it's happening. So, I mean, I'm just kind of happy to be here.
For me, like, I don't know. I don't have any like vendettas I need to settle. I don't have, beef with anybody. I'm just sort of like playing the game. But if there's a team that I'm excited to play, I mean, it's probably going to be Mirage. Like, I think they have an interesting roster, and they have, my friend and prior teammate Razor on it. I'd like to see him play well. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he's appreciated as a player. So I'd like to see him play well, honestly. And playing against him and the rest of Mirage is going to be an interesting and exciting experience.
Yeah, well, good luck guys. You guys are the first game, right? So you're kicking off the season,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
you versus
Well,
Beast Coast.
Good luck
Yep.
guys. I personally I have to root for Beast Coast because I'm a surf fan. Damien's my
God
boy, so
damn,
You're one of
man.
his e-pals.
I am. I'm a Damien E-pal, but
Yeah, all good. Bias.
yeah, so
Oh,
biased.
good.
Yeah, good luck. We don't want to keep you from your pizza, so thanks for
course
coming
not.
on. Really appreciate having both of
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Awesome.
Good
All
luck,
right.
guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
So
What do we think?
I
About-
think. Look, I think that team is actually going to be very good, in my opinion. The roster changes they made, I thought were good. I think a lot of the things going in, like I said, the attacker repick is definitely going to help them. I think it helps them or benefits them more than most teams in the NAL.
Yeah, whenever they played in CL, they were always like one of the more innovative teams. So I think the new map pool, hopefully they'll figure out how to play Skyscraper and Theme Park and Border and all that. And yeah, like the attacker repick, they always like tried to bring the funky lineups in CL. So plus they have the LAN experience too. I think that's like a big thing that
They
kind of gets
do.
swept under the rug. Is like all of them have played on LAN, I think, besides Wimpy. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be anything new for them. Like there's not going to be like that transition period like there is for most teams when you are playing on LAN versus online. So I'm excited to see them play. I think they'll surprise some people.
I think so as well. Now that gets us into our next point where we are talking about the new season. Huge changes coming into the new season. First, the map pool, adding 3 maps, taking out Coast. Coast was also a map that, in my opinion, was played a good bit. But adding 2 completely new maps, Sky rework, Border rework, and then bringing back in Theme, which I think was a good move, all considering that it never should have been out in the first place. But
Yeah,
seeing that map,
I think Theme's a good map.
it's a great map, and seeing it with a new meta, definitely is going to be nice to see. But I think Sky, I'm really excited to see. I do have a nice VOD coming up. It has been played in APAC already on multiple occasions, actually. But just seeing the map, it really is a lot different than maps that are already in the pool. From what I've seen, it looks a lot more attacker-sided than defender-sided. Obviously, I don't have numbers on that. Obviously, there's a lot of Siege to be played to, influence that opinion. But just watching it be played, it's really new. I really wish we could have seen Border a little bit already. I'm sure it'll be sooner rather than later that we see it in the NAL get played. But Jack, what do you think about the new maps coming in?
Well, first, I think people aren't talking about how Coastline was removed. Like, I think that's not only like where maps added, but like a map getting removed definitely hurts and helps some teams. So like a lot of teams that played Coastline as like one of their primary maps, like that's like gonna be huge for them, you know. So I think that's pretty big. And as far as like the new maps, I guess theme park isn't really a new map, but the way it was played in the past was you made rotates between the top floor, and then you did shields and Wamai and Jaeger. And I'm kind of wondering, I haven't been in any scrim lobbies or seen any amateur games, but I wonder if it's going to play the same, or do you think it'll be more of like a kind of like a clubhouse where you roam around on the third floor and then you try to go back to site? And I'm curious to see like what teams choose to do with that, whether they want to go for that kind of anchor style with all the shields and the discs, or if they want to like get on the more aggressive side and how that'll play out.
I think that's a little bit to be determined at the current time. I think both maps, Border and Sky, that came in, they seem to be attacker sided. They're both pretty small maps. From my experience of playing on Sky, it's a map that you contest the whole map, which it is a small map, so you kind of have to for a sense. You can kind of anchor. It seems like you can anchor a little bit, but it just seems like the better way to defend is to get a little active throughout the rest of the map. But speaking of Coastline as well, honestly, we're going to go back and say this later, as if TSM didn't need any more help. I'm pretty sure, to my knowledge, I could be wrong. Basically, the map that they were insta-banning most of SI was Coastline. And they're a team that normally has a larger map pool. So adding 3 different maps plus taking away the map that they already weren't playing definitely makes them a little bit more scary than they already were.
Yeah, it's a big buff for TSM, I think. Just because, like you said, taking away their worst map, then adding 3 new maps. But I mean, they could be maybe they're shit at the new maps, so who knows?
They might be.
Because I feel like Coastline was like the attacker-sided map in the comp pool. So if these maps are attacker-sided, then maybe they're not going to be so great at these maps, and that'll be maybe making a little bit worse since they did look so dominant
I mean,
against
at the same
NA
time,
teams.
too, though, they also, one of their better maps was Chalet, which is also the second.
That's true. True.
Bank was also attacker
I
sided.
forgot about Chalet and Bank. Yeah.
I'm kind of happy to see. I'm hoping that Sky and Border are both attacker sided because, in my eyes, I don't think Theme will. Oregon kind of isn't, a lot of obviously those maps are less defender sided than they used to be, but I think, even split right down the gut, like of attacker sided and defender sided maps really is going to be nice to watch. So it's not, defense winning every single round. I also think attacker sided maps with attacker repick might be really interesting. I'm excited to see attacker repick. Like I said, I think especially in Pro League, because these are the people who are the best on the planet playing it. You can definitely see, the creativity being shown from them specifically. Like I said, Parabellum, I'm really excited to see the things that they can do with repick at their disposal.
Yeah, I think when the game's attacker sided, it's good for the viewership, and because like Rainbow Six Esports, like the biggest criticism it gets is that it's slow, it's dull. The first 45 seconds is just teams droning, reinforcing all that stuff. And so I think when the game is sped up and faster, as much as the teams might not like it, I think as a viewer,
Way
now
more
that I'm
enjoyable
just
to
a
watch.
viewer, I think it's way more fun to watch because that's like why people enjoy COD, CS:GO, Valorant. It's just gunfights and just pure skill just shines. I think that will be so good for this game moving forward, even
Yeah.
though teams might not like it. I think attacker repick, because it's adding something to the prep phase rather, because like the casual viewer is not going to understand like them putting pre-placed drones, them doing all this stuff, but if they see them like changing their operator lineups and then the casters, that gives them something to talk about. It makes the prep phase more interesting. As before, like honestly, like I didn't even pay attention to the
I
prep
didn't pay
phase half the
attention
time.
either.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, they're taking Oregon basement, they're putting their pre-place on dining side, and then they're clearing the map. Like it'll actually make the prep phase worth watching, and I think that'll be great for viewership.
I think also the big thing too was not only making the prep phase more interesting to watch, but it was also taking away the reveal phase. that was
Yeah, that was
basically
just
about
downtime. That just
20 to
wasn't
30
needed.
seconds of downtime that wasn't needed, and then
Yeah.
making the prep phase more exciting to watch. Because, sorry, my dog acting up over there. But it just that was the biggest problem of Siege was the downtime. It was the slow pace and bringing in attacker sided maps. Even if they're not attacker sided, they are smaller maps. Like Sky, Border, are small maps. Coast was an absolute clusterfuck. Completely
There's
was a
gonna be action, though.
clusterfuck, but yeah,
That's why like it's good. Like teams might not like it, but that's what the game needs to grow. I think
it needs to be more fun to watch. It's a very
Yeah.
unique game, as we all know.
It is. It's like there's such a high learning curve that like making it more fun to watch while you try to understand the learning curve is just gonna be good. But that's all I got. What else
Yeah.
we got?
I think we got our next phase talking about power rankings and what we think about new teams. So first of all, we can go in. We can look at all the beautiful roster changes. Something I threw together a little bit right before this. But looking at all these roster changes, we're going to go team by team, talk about what we think about each of these roster changes, starting with Astralis picking up Forest for Retro, and obviously with Easily stepping down, retiring as a coach from Siege in general, they picked up Callout. So they got a couple of the Wichita guys, a couple of the Ape guys into that roster. What do you think about that, Jack?
Well, call out obviously mainstay in CL, and he was also in PL for a good amount of time.
He was
and
with
then Forrest,
United.
yeah, him and Forrest go way back, so I think that's good that they kind of came in as like a package. I think it'll help him get adjusted because call out coming in as the coach, he should be able to be really familiar with how Forrest plays and be able to set him up for success better than I think it would be if he was trying to come in and adapt to their system. Because if you watch how Forrest plays, he's kind of like that lurker individual role, like lurking around. Especially, I'll never forget watching him on Cafe. He just is such a beast at just like doing his own thing and just getting kills. And I think adding him onto that roster, it's going to be really interesting to see who plays support for that roster, like the hard support. Because as much as people love to hate on Retro for like not putting up great numbers, let's be honest, he was like the rock on that team. Like if you needed a smoke and a thermite, like Retro was the guy.
I mean, it's going to have to be
So
Shuttle, right? Like, it's going to have to be Shuttle.
I think so. It's going to have to be. So it's going to be interesting to see how those roles kind of interact. But I think Forrest was a really good pickup, and I think it's long overdue that he's in Pro League. So
But I think also with Callout coming in, Forrest coming in, you could tell they are definitely going to be implementing that play style that they had. And in my opinion, they have the team to do it. They have so much talent. They have J9, they got Iconic, they have DP. That is a very talented roster, and a team that can push the pace like that. Now you have Forrest as well. It's a lot of firepower, and that can really catch teams off guard. I think Beast Coast is going to have a similar play style. You look at their roster. We're transitioning to them next. But it looks like they're going to be doing the same kind of thing. But you look at Astralis, they definitely have a lot more talent in my eyes than Beast Coast does. And also, in my opinion, a lot more structure than Beast Coast might have. But going into Beast Coast, there were obviously a lot of changes. Controversial changes coming in. They basically dropped the whole team. There was invite quals kind of happened. They had already dropped Fozo. I believe they had dropped Jay by that point.
No, I think it was Jay was still on the team because it was just Surf. I remember Surf was like on
Yeah,
the trial
that's
period
right.
during invite quals because they had to go through open qualifiers, and that's
They
when
did.
they got
And they did
dismantled
lose
by
to FPL Queens, yes, who they
Yeah.
picked up Drip and Slash from that roster. They got Surf and they got Sweater. Sweater, we don't need to say anything about Sweater. Sweater is young prodigy. He would have, taken Xset by storm last year. He definitely would have been a mainstay. Definitely been really, really fun to watch. Very happy that we're getting to see him in Pro League now. It was a matter of time. It really was.
Yeah.
They also got Rams as an assistant coach. Now, you can definitely speak on that as he coached Honor for a little bit. What do you think about that pickup?
Yeah, Rams did coach Honor for a while, and Rams when he was with us, he was a great coach. I just want to preface anything I say with that. I have all love for Rams. He was a great coach, but I will say when Rams coached us, we always wanted to have like a specific direction. Like when Rams coached us, we were very structured. We tried to be, at least. Everyone knew their role and everyone knew what they were going to do at all times. Like there was a game plan. This is what we have to do. This is the steps we're going to take to do it. And then this is our execute. Like when we played, the game was set in it was 3 phases. So the phase 1 was clearing the map. Phase 2 was opening what we needed to get the bomb down. Then phase 3 was getting the bomb down. So obviously, when you have such a rigid structure like that, when things go wrong, that doesn't turn out well. And when we played, whenever things went wrong, we struggled. So I think that's a stark contrast to how a team like FPL Queens with Yardy and Slash played. They play up in your face. They play off a whim and off of each other's individual abilities. So I'm curious to see the direction that the team's going to go. Are they going to go with Rams, trying to use the talent that they have and make them play more structured to hopefully elevate them? Or are they just going to try to get loose and say, maybe we don't have the coordination that an SSG or a TSM does, but we have people that can just flat out shoot you in the head and get the kill. So we're just going to get up in your face and gun you down like FPL Queens did to all the Pro League teams in their run. So for me, I think that's the identity crisis that Beast Coast was going through during this offseason, and I'm really excited to watch the first play day and see how they do. So
They
I don't
better
know what the
fucking
right way to,
perform. They
yeah,
better
I don't know
fucking
what the right
perform.
way is, because I mean both ways have strengths and weaknesses of how to play the game. So
Look,
I don't know.
making the
What would you do?
changes, making the changes that they made after invite calls. Look, they basically dropped the whole roster. It was very controversial. They dropped Alec. They dropped Sippin. They dropped Jay. Jay did not perform well, but I think he definitely still had a place on that team. If they're look, Xset, we know they cleaned house. They couldn't have gotten much worse. Beast Coast, they had an upside. It felt like, and it felt like they were a couple pieces away from being really good. But them
Yeah.
dropping Alec, them dropping Sippin, they better fucking perform if they were going to make a change like that.
Dropping Alec was one of the really most controversial moves, I think, of the whole roster change window, because the season before he got picked up to Pro League, he was unstoppable in Challenger League.
He was unreal.
And now, like, as much as Surf is my boy, like, he struggled in Challenger League, and I think people are looking at that kind of like, did you really just trade a 1A for a 1B? Like, they're essentially like, you both have them on fragging operators, and it seemed like at the time that Alec, most people would probably say, would be a better player and a better pickup than Surf, especially with Alec having that LAN experience now. I gotta wonder if there was something going on in the background, maybe like creators was saying, with the org wanting Nick's gone more so than the players, if there was something like that, or if I don't know what the scenario was, but yeah, I think there was definitely some arguments that could have been made for keeping Alec on the team.
Yeah. And then moving on to DZ. Obviously no player changes. There were a lot of rumors that Eclipse was going to retire. I'm actually very happy he didn't. But the only change they had was BC left from a coaching role to an org role, so he's no longer with the team. I actually think that might hurt them a lot.
Really?
I think it will. Look, I have it down when we talk about DZ later in the power rankings, but DZ, the stage that they played with BC was the stage that came in fourth, but they went 7-1, and they couldn't win outside of OT. They won 6 games in OT, but BC, it just seemed like obviously he wasn't as good of a player as, Canadian is, obviously. But you look at the rest of the players on the team that stage, you look at Pamba, basically literally everybody on that roster, they had a very good stage. Hyper had a very good stage, NJR had a very good stage. Literally everybody had a very good stage. I think he had a lot to do with getting the best out of these players. I think him not being there isn't going to be a great thing. But I think it's not a huge change.
Still.
They do.
Has been there for a stage. So
They do.
How much was BC really doing? That's not something we really can speak
No,
on.
that's
but
definitely not something we can speak
I think
on.
it's good that Mint has been there for a stage now. Maybe is it 2 stages that they've not had
As a
Houghton hold?
coach,
I can't remember how
they
long
didn't have
Mint's been
Houghton the whole
coaching.
time.
Yeah,
But Mint
how
played
long was
stage
Mint
1.
coaching.
Stage
Yeah,
2,
so he's been
stage
there
3.
for 2 stages. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he theoretically has a lot of experience, as a coach. So I think he can right the ship. But what my biggest fear for Dark Zero is that it seems like, in my opinion, if I was the coach, I think they're on the wrong roles. Like, I don't understand why Canadian, arguably a top 2 hard breach player of all time, besides
It's not even just hard breach, man.
besides Pengu.
You
Yeah,
look
just
at the
player
rest
in
of that
general.
roster.
But just roles in particular, why is Canadian, playing that second, like, flex kind of operator, not just get him on Thermite, let him IGL. That's what you brought him on for. That's what he's good at. Why is Pambazoo playing Thermite on some maps? It's just things
It
like
makes
that
no
are a little
sense.
questionable for me. And when they were at SI, that was one of the biggest reasons I think they struggled, was because they got to let Pambazoo do Pambazoo things, and he doesn't have the freedom to make those plays on Thermite because he has to stay alive. So I wonder if they revamped that during the offseason, if they went back to the old rules, or if they kind of ironed out the new ones that they have. So
I really think they had to. I think that's the main downfall with DZ. And then going on to Mirage. I have things to say about this team. A lot of things to say. First of all, the original roster that Mirage was supposed to have, for all of you that don't know, they dropped Loading and they dropped Nyx. Nyx, I kind of agree with what Penguin said, or was it Creators? It was
I
Creators.
think it was creators.
Yeah. Dropping Nyx, he seemed like it was a good IGL for the most part. Obviously, I don't think he was pulling his weight as much as he should have been shooting-wise, and Mirage did want everybody on the team pulling their weight, frag-wise. So the original roster, they had picked up Melted and Newers alongside Dream, Ben, and Thomas. Now that team, I would have had as a top 5 team. That team was going to be really good. Then obviously they lost Dream and Newers to LXG, which we talk about next. And then to fill that void, they picked up Razor and Marm. Now, Razor, in my opinion, was a very good pickup. I think he was thrown into a really shitty situation with Xset, and a really good player wasn't allowed to shine, so you couldn't really see as much as we should have with him. But he got 2 stages in Pro League, he got 2 stages on LAN. He should do really well with this team. Marmalade.
What about her?
I don't think this was the move. I think, obviously, they wanted to pick her up for a reason. She probably fits with the roster really well. But I personally believe firmly they should have picked up Vivid. Main reason why, as I have my full page of notes on Vivid versus Marm.
Here we go.
In my straight up opinion, losing Dream and Nyx, Thomas obviously going to step into that IGL. And I think the only issue with Vivid, and I'll say that over and over again, this is why I think Marm is probably a better fit team-wise, because she's not really a big voice. She's a voice, obviously, but she's not a big voice. Bringing in Vivid would be a lot of voices. But Thomas obviously IGLing. You lose Dream, you lose Nyx. Dream, obviously, the hard support player. Guys getting bombs down like crazy. Like I said, Mirage needs a dedicated bomb planter after losing Dream. That is a replacement that they need. You look at Mirage, Dream in stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. He got 6 bombs down stage 1, 9 in stage 2, and 11 in stage 3, all in 8 maps, right? Now, Emma has never been a primary bomb planter besides last stage with Nocturnes back in CL. She got 4 bombs down in 6 maps in the regular season, and I will not be including playoffs because all glory to her. She was doing her absolute best with a team that was giving her absolutely nothing. But Vivid has always been a primary planter, even though he's been in IGL. I would assume he wanted to come in there and kind of take over IGLing over Thomas. I assume that's not what they wanted. But you look at Vivid throughout the last 2 stages of CL. In stage 2, he had 7 bombs down in 6 maps. Stage 3, 10 bombs down in 6 maps. And in the playoffs, and this was a big one, a lot of people definitely overlooked this, but he got 20 bombs down himself in 10 maps. That was 30 in 16 maps throughout the stage 3 of CL. And I think we can all kind of say, bombs down more often than not when you attack rounds. That is a given.
Yeah, I mean that's
it's just a fact. I think Vivid would do really well in Pro League. His system would do really well in Pro League. I think with the amount of firepower that the roster already has, it would work out more than fine. Look, Vivid will be in Pro League soon enough. I think it's tough to pick up an IGL to Pro League because, you have to switch so much of a system. I think if at any point you're going to put an IGL in Pro League, it would be now before stage 1, not between any stages. But like I said, I think it's a lot harder, especially with Mirage not really losing Dream and Newers, even mostly Dream until after SI quals, so they didn't really have a ton of time to make these changes. Whereas, Beast Coast had right after, SI open quals. Most of these teams had right after, open quals. You had Xset, this was already in the works long before, but I don't know. I just think they would have benefited a lot from a player like Vivid. I still think Marm is the pickup. She was the best pickup available, in my opinion, from if they wanted to keep Thomas's system and the system that they currently have planned. But I think what would have been best for the team would have been implementing Vivid's system.
Right. I just want to, before we move on, I want to play devil's advocate for Marmalade here, because although you are correct in all these head-to-head stats and stuff, but you got to look at the team that Marmalade had versus the team that Vivid has. When Vivid was in playoffs, he had, I can't remember their team from last season, but like basically what I'm trying to say is the systems around you is such a huge factor in the stats that you're going to have as a support player. And all love to Nocturnes. I used to play for Dauntless, but they are not at the same level that
Nowhere near.
Investigation File,
Nowhere near.
whatever that team is. Yeah, like it's not fair. So I think that's why like the individual stats don't really do justice to support players. So obviously Mirage saw something in the scrims that they liked, and I'm sure they probably tried out other support. Like it's not like they just tried out Marmalade.
No, of
So
course not.
obviously they saw something that they liked in her, and we can't really question the decision like creators and Penguin said until we watch her play.
See it happen, yeah.
So until then, I'm saving judgment.
Yes.
But I do agree with you that I personally, if I'm the one running Mirage, I might have picked other people before I would go with Emma. But
I mean,
I'm
we have
waiting to give
judgment. After Tuesday. After Tuesday, all of these opinions will be put to the test.
Exactly.
OXG. Look, I think Kino and Yaga obviously also leaving was a very controversial thing. Word on the street, they left the roster because they didn't think they could win a world title with OXG, and they thought they could on Xset. Obviously, they're also going into a way more comfortable setting with people that they are completely cool with. But I also think OXG made some really good changes. And if Newers, look, we all have seen Newers play. He was an absolute superstar when he joined Dallas Vendetta for the little small period of time that he was on it. If they get even half of the player that was, this is an upgrade. Getting Dream, I'm very high on Dream. I think not only just do I like him as a dude, but I think he's a very good player. He's a large reason why Mirage was decent, in my opinion, outside of, the stage that they had Houghton, and Houghton was putting up MVP numbers. But Dream is a huge pickup. Newers is a huge pickup. Potential huge pickup. I still think LXG's going to be really good. I think they're like a third, fourth team at the current time. They could be better. They could be worse. I think keeping their foundation that they had, they kind of have an advantage. They can kind of just slide Newers and Dream into the roles that they already have. But I really like the changes that LXG made. Obviously, they didn't drop Kino and Yag. This is just talking about the pickups. I think the pickups are fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, basically, in my mind, there's no doubt that these are both really good players. It's just whether they're going to mesh well with OXG and if OXG can get the maximum potential out of this roster that they've put together. Because there's not a lot of players that go straight to Pro League when they turn 18. I mean, you look at Sweater, obviously was on Sonics when he was 18. Iconic, NJR. Was J9, did he play a season of CL? I don't think he played a season of CL.
No, he didn't.
And then Bolo, obviously. So
J9,
if you're in a company like that.
J9 and NJR went straight to, what was it? Disrupt, I believe. And then Iconic.
Sonics.
Yeah, Iconic went straight to Sonics. So obviously.
Kansan was straight to Sonics.
Mm-hmm. So.
And Bolo, obviously, to TSM.
Yep.
But I mean, company like that, like those are all insanely good players. So I have no doubt that Newers will do really well in Pro League. He's just too mechanically skilled
to do well.
Do poorly, yeah.
I mean, he's got Dream behind him. He's got Fox behind him. He's got Laxing behind him.
He's in a good system too. He's in a good system. Like Fox A, Laxing, and Vert. They've played together for so long now, and they've consistently put up top 5 results. So there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to succeed.
Yeah, and also Hyper going straight to DC was also one from that DG roster that played
He was
absolutely
Rise.
well.
He played on Rise Nation for a little bit. I got my
That's
Siege
right.
history.
That's right. Okay.
They were last. He went from 0 to hero. He was
Yep.
about to get relegated, then he got picked up to DZ.
You now have Parabellum. Now, like I said, look, I think Wimpy's a good player. I would say he's the best available. But filling Spirits' role is a big thing. That wasn't Wimpy's job. I think he was Melted's replacement for the most part. Blaz, obviously a really good pickup. For those of you who don't watch EU, Blaz is a very good player. He never really makes, most people don't really get to see him play because none of the teams he's on ever really make it to like international events, but he's a very good player. When he comes in on stage 2, it's going to be a very big thing. Creators, like we talked about earlier, creators not having to be that, leader, that guy, he doesn't have to have the pressure. Puts him in a very big spot to play like he did when he was on Tempo. And like we said, he was literally Michael Jordan on a very bad team.
He's like LeBron on the 03 Cavs.
He
like,
literally went nuts. So I think Creators was a really good pickup. I think he'll do well filling the role of Spirits. I think Melted, in my opinion, didn't even fit that well with Parabellum in the first place. Melted was always a really good entry player.
Stage 3. I think Melted's good, but I don't think they utilized him right. Like,
I don't think so either.
In stage 3.
So I think losing him was not bad at all. I actually think it's better that they lost him, rather. But losing Spirits was obviously huge. We'll see how Creators slides into that role. Obviously, they sound like they feel really good about it. It obviously wasn't really up to them to lose Spirits. Spirits on that roster for so long, but we'll kind of see how that goes. Our next 3 obviously did not need to make any changes. Sonics, SSG, TSM. Sonics, they didn't need to make any changes. It was just a given.
I feel like we don't need to talk about them that much because
not at all.
Obviously they didn't make any changes. But the one thing I will say is the Sonics are kind of known for having a more shallow map pool from what I hear.
Yes.
At least the jokes on Twitter. I saw Lycan commenting about how Sonics can't just play Oregon all day every day.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's true or if it's just jokes because obviously I'm not on the Sonics. I don't scrim them, so I don't know how good their map pool actually is. But that's the one thing I would say is like how is the new map pool going to affect these teams? Because with SSG, like they were known for like being innovators. They made the SSG room on Clubhouse.
Same with TSM.
Adding the new maps to them, I think will be no problem. So that's why I don't think we need to talk about them.
Yeah, it definitely hurt Sonics a little bit.
I think both of us can agree that they're going to be top 3 in NA.
Last but not least, XSET. They are the definition of clearinghouse. Not only did they drop 5 players and pick up 5 players, they picked up a new coach, they picked up a new assistant, and they picked up an analyst. By the way, all 3 Brazilian. Plus Kino, plus Yaga, plus Diaz, plus Gomez, plus Spirits. I have my issues with this team. The talent on the board is just top to bottom fantastic. It really is. They have so much firepower. It's unbelievable. But I just struggle to think about this roster in a very positive way because I just don't think Gomez is going to be able to lead the team enough for them to be a top team. I don't think they have anybody. I know Spirits was shot calling a little bit on Parabellum, but I just think, obviously, for being like a friends team quote, from what I'm hearing, normally vibes are going to be up. They're going to be having fun with it. But I think when shit starts getting tough, which obviously it does for teams that are struggling, I just don't see it going well. Now, if the team does well from the start, I don't think there's going to be any issues. If they come out hot, which I think it's very likely that they will, because I don't think anybody's going to know how to play against these guys. They're going to be very unique. But I think when it comes around to stage 2, I think it's going to start getting a really, big problem. They're going to run into their obstacles because I just don't think this team really has it for when shit gets tough, which every team does.
I think the opposite, man. I think this was like a long-term move from them. I think they're going to give them stage 1 to let them get that experience under their belt, get that support system in place with some of these new guys having to IGL and all that. But they're thinking long-term in my mind. If I'm XSET's CEO, I'm thinking, how can my team improve stage 2, stage 3, so that we're contending to go to international lands. We're not getting relegated. We're doing all that. And if we shit the bed stage 1, it's fine because it's stage 1. The relegations aren't until the end of stage 3.
Yep.
So I think it's the opposite. I think they might struggle at first, but I think next season, once they have experience, you can't deny they're all extremely talented
No, they
players. So
are.
if they can put a system in place that works and develop, then I think they could be a top team just with the talent that they have. And with the coach coming from MIBR, I mean, MIBR was a really good team. So
They were. In a
if they
region that was
can-
very competitive and a team that I guess kind of came out of nowhere. It seemed like they definitely had some very, very high placings. Beating out Nip, beating out FaZe at Invite. They
Yeah.
beat out a lot of very, very good teams, ones that have been around for a while. So obviously he has to be good at his job. Pedro also, as an analyst, that dude's the
Pedro
GOAT.
for Pro League, baby.
Yeah, that guy's the
I've
GOAT.
seen his work. His work is crazy. Shout out
It's
to Pedro.
incredible. He was a very big part. He was, in my opinion, the main reason why that Guidance Gaming made CL. He was definitely very good on Investigation File and Slaughterhouse when they were Slaughterhouse. He does so much good work. So I think that's definitely going to be, a very underrated pickup out of them. And then Vivas, I just don't really know much about Bodega and Vivas, but if they brought him in, it had to be for a reason. So
Yeah, definitely.
all right, now to the moment we have all been waiting for, the power rankings. So we have all of our nice little teams here. Me and Jack have come up with our power rankings ourselves, and we have not spoken to each other about them until this moment.
I
So
feel like they're gonna be pretty similar. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like we've been saying the same things about the teams.
I think
but
we have
we'll
as
see,
well,
I guess.
besides Exet.
Yeah,
But
besides Exet.
I think we can all agree TSM's number one. I don't think much needs to be
Yeah, I
said
mean-
about this team. We said it earlier. The map pool is going to help them for the most part. Attacker repick might help them. Every single change that has been made is already helping a team that is already number one stay number one.
Yeah. I think the only thing that could hurt them is if it's best of 1, they might, best of 1, anything can happen. But if it's
Yeah.
best of 3s, I see no reason why they won't keep dominating.
So I think TSM going number one is definitely an easy decision. Number two, I think this makes it's a little tougher, but I still think it's kind of straightforward. Sonics is probably number two. They
Nope.
played.
SSG.
You think SSG? Look, I have my issues with SSG, but first of all, with Sonics, look, they had the highest average placing in NAL last season. They also won NAL last season. They are very good against North American teams. They finally, look, international play was one thing. They'd never done well. They finally brought it together at Invite with their top 6 finish. They definitely, in my opinion, should have placed higher. They kind of trolled a little bit. But with SSG, I have issues with SSG.
Let's enlighten me, because I see obviously not no issues, but I think SSG overall is a more well-rounded team than the Sonics. The SSG's team, there's no weak points. They are all really, really good players.
I think the problem
And-
isn't their weak points. I think the problem is their strong points. Now, like I said, notebook, I have the numbers right here. And, obviously, stats can't really say everything, but they need MVP Hot and Cold so bad. So bad. Without Hot and Cold playing well, this team is literally dog shit. Not
That's
dog
true.
shit,
That's so
but they
false.
are not the best team on the planet. They would be if Houghton was playing out of his mind. Look, we got stage 2, which was the first time that Houghton was on the team. He had a 1.33. Guess what place SSG was?
What, first? Second?
First place. Stage 3,
Yeah.
Houghton put up a 1.48, which is absolutely fucking unreal. Obviously, SSG, first place. NAL Finals. They were knocked out in the first round to DZ, a team that barely even made it in the first place. Would you like to hear what his rating was? It was a 1.06. At Invite, they placed top 12, which was the worst finish of all NA teams, which, like I said, DZ looked abysmal that event. For the most part, in group stages, they kind of brought it back a little bit. His rating was a 1.08. This team is not that good without Hot and Cold playing well. They obviously are world champions, They've won world championships they won Invite 2 years ago. I'm not discrediting this roster and how good they are. But in this current iteration of the team, they are literally nothing if Hot and Cold does not play out of his mind. It's just a fact.
I mean, you can say what you want. I think they're all really good players, and I think the reason that for me, SSG is 2 and Sonics is 3 is because of the new map pool,
I
the
agree with that
tactical
100%
repick,
as well.
and I think that just pushes them above. But I think those are the top 3 teams, no question about it. Like,
Yes,
I agree.
there's
Those are the
no
top
way.
3. You can debate 2. I think should be a lock for everyone for number 1, but I personally have SSG above Sonics.
Hmm.
But
And now I think 4 is also very easy. I think this team is in a little tier of their own. I have OXG as fourth.
yeah, I also have OXG.
I think there's no reason to, have them lower, have them higher. They're obviously in that middle tier. I think they have the potential to even go up to number 1. They obviously showed moments of brilliance last year in being potentially the best NA team. I thought personally they were the best NA team going into Sweden before, Fox ended up getting COVID. And after that, it kind of like went downhill. But I thought they were the best team in North America going into that event. Or was it Mexico? Whatever event he
I
didn't.
think it was Mexico. I think
Yeah.
COVID issues. I can't
Yeah,
remember though.
if it was Mexico, then yeah, that stage I thought they were the best team in North America. I don't think they won stage 1. I don't know if they came in first, but I just think it was just this team's going to be really good. I think that's a given, but I don't. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Newers to get into his form, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Dream to get into from adjusting, because I think it's a lot harder for a support player to adjust into a system than a fragger is. But anyways, enough on them. Number 5.
I just want to say real quick. I think that's the one team where like the pickups, like you can't question whether they're gonna do well or not. Like I think
They're going to do
Brewers will
well.
do well
Yeah, they
because
will
of the
do
system
well.
that he's in and his talent. And Dream is a great player. That's why I'm so confident that they're fourth, because I
Yeah.
have faith that they'll do well.
Now for 5th, 6th, I had a really tough time deciding between the two, which I think this could be controversial. The fact that I'm putting one team above the other, not necessarily that this team is in this region, but the fact that they are above the other. I would say Astralis is 5th, over
Yeah, I
DZ
think
is 6th.
5 through 7. I think there's like kind of tiers. Like there's like the top number 1 TSM, and then 2 and 3 SSG and Sonics, and then 4th is Auction, and then 5 through 7 I could see these teams kind of flip-flopping through this
Yeah.
placement, but not necessarily pushing into like that top 2. And for me, in this order, it's DZ, Astralis, and then PB. I think those are the teams that are going to kind of finish middle of the pack, but could push towards the upper tier. But I think they'll definitely won't finish bottom 3.
Absolutely
And
not. I think that's.
so what's your 5 through 7? I would like.
I
to
have Astralis, DZ, Parabellum. So obviously, I think we can just put Parabellum at 7. I think we all agree with that. The Parabellum, look, like I said about the roster, like I said, more statistics, but Parabellum on LAN against Pro League teams is currently 5-5 against Pro League teams historically since last invite or invite 2021. If you include the SI quals, they're 6-7, losing those 2 games to TSM, not picking up a single map, but they did beat Mirage before Loading and Nyx departed the team. But they are historically good against Pro League teams. It's just a fact. I think that's what keeps them out of the bottom 3. I think you look at, for instance, XSET's talent. Obviously, I think XSET is way more talented than the PB roster, top to bottom. But I just think structure-wise, and with that being said, I think PB is going to do pretty well. I don't think they're going to be doing crazy well. I think if they kept Spirits, and then obviously had either Blaz or Creators, I think either one would have done really well as the 5th over Melted. But I just think if that was the team, I think that I could put them a little bit higher. But I think given all that I've said,
I just think, yeah, like you said, they're the new guys. They're fresh into Pro League. We don't have any like not a lot of them have pro league experience besides creators, so it's hard to like judge how they're gonna do against other pro league teams throughout a full season.
Yeah.
When teams have time to prep for them, and it's not like SI where you have like 5 games in 2 days, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think teams having more time to prep against PB might be to PB's downfall, and then. But on the bright side, like you're saying, I think they're a really talented roster, but I can't justify them above other teams that have consistently proven themselves
Yeah.
in the NAL. So that's why I think that they're 7th.
I'll put DZ at 5th and Astralis at 6th. I'll agree with
Just
that.
so we can have the same list.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. I think Astralis is a little bit more of a gamble. And it's not because I think Astralis is better than DZ. I actually think DZ is worse than Astralis in that sense. I think DZ is a lot of talent. Look, my issue is Canadian needs to get his shit together with this roster. He has so much talent to work with. And that was the thing. When you saw him on EG, he made those players absolutely fucking incredible. You saw when Canadian left that roster, that team had a huge downfall.
Yeah, fell to shambles basically.
And more statistics, guys. Don't worry. But I think Hyper is such a big piece of this team. I think, and I have it down here too, when Hyper does well, DZ does well. Stage 2, when they came in 4th, like I said, when they played with BC, they were 7-1 that stage. He had a 1.29. Stage 3, they came in 4th, and they had a 500 record. He had a 1.08. In NAL Finals, they placed 2nd, 2-3 map count. He had a 1.09, which was the 4th highest in the entire event, right? And then at Invite, they placed top 8. He only had a 1.01, but NJR went fucking massive and had a 1.17. But my main thing is that Canadian needs to get the best out of those two players. They are so incredibly talented, but they both need to be playing well. Like I have it down from stage 3 NAL Finals Invite, even stage 2 with BC. They don't both play extremely well. Outside of stage 3 with Canadian, they both hovered around a 1.1. And they did pretty well, that stage. But for the most part, like, I just think he needs to get the best out of those players. Even Pamba on that roster, like Eclipse is doing his thing. Obviously we said roles was a problem. If they don't switch up the roles, I think DZ's in trouble because there's just too much talent right now in NAL as opposed to last year's stage 1. There's a lot more talent in this one, and top to bottom, I think the league is a lot more competitive. This time around, I think if they don't switch around, they are in huge fucking trouble. If they keep Canadian on like an entry role IGLing, they need to have Pamba, NJR, and Hyper playing well. They need to be set up for success. And if Canadian can't set them up for success, they are going to have problems.
Yeah. Like you were saying though, I think the reason for me that DZ is above Astralis is because with DZ I know what I'm getting. With Astralis, they're more up in the air. But yeah, like I said, this is only week 1, so I think it's definitely subject to change. But I think those 3 teams, PB, Astralis, and DZ, they're like the ones where I'm not really sure where they're going to end up, but I know that they're not going to be bottom 3.
Yes.
But I really doubt that they're going to be 1 or 2, So they're kind of just like that upper middle.
I mean, look, the best of ones, anything can happen. We've said this before.
Yeah, true.
But I think this is kind of like not just, I don't think these power rankings are exactly, these are not where we think these teams are going to finish. We think these are the best teams.
Week 1.
Yeah. I think 8, 9, and 10. I think the bottom tier. I think straight up XSET is 8. I don't think we would.
I also have XSET.
We would have to be out of our fucking minds to put Beast Coast or Mirage above this XSET roster. They are too talented. And like I said, like VBM said in the chat, XSET over Astralis. I think XSET is more than capable of being in this 5 to 7. But my main issue, like I said earlier, is it's just a lack of structure. It really is. Not even just structure, but lack of leadership in a sense. Gomez is the leader of the team. I don't think he's ever really been the main leader of a team. And he's got a lot of responsibility on his hands. I will say, I don't think he really has to. He doesn't have pressure to play well on this team. He doesn't. There's enough talent around him that he can focus on leading and focus on providing the structure. But I just think they're going to struggle early, which I think you would agree with.
Yeah, that's like what I was saying earlier. I think long term this will be a successful team, but I think they're gonna have some rough patches starting off as these guys get adjusted to what it's like playing on land and in pro league. And so if Kino and Yog, if they can be leaders and help out and do all that, then I think the learning curve will be less steep for the other guys, and that they could elevate into that top 5, like we said.
And like I said, I think it helps that Spirits can also shot call. From
Yeah,
what I know,
definitely.
he can. So that'll obviously help a lot. But I just think it's just one of those things. Obviously, it's a completely new roster, completely new 5. So it's just gonna take some time. But anyways, we get into 9 and 10 now.
I got Beast Coast, then Mirage. What about you?
I have Mirage then Beast Coast. I originally had Beast Coast above Mirage because I think these teams are both equal. But as my tiebreaker, it would be Trial by Combat. And I think with Mirage losing Dream, they would lose that Trial by Combat. But I just think the way the Beast Coast roster is formulated, I just think it's constructed more poorly than Mirage's. I have a good idea of what Mirage wants to do. Structure wise, it's very clear what they want to do. It's clear that they have a good idea of what they want to do, and they have a lot of talent. Razor and Melted have a lot of talent. I think if Melted isn't on more of a fragging role, if he's on a support role, I think that's a heavy fucking troll. When he was on Ape, he was absolutely incredible. But if he, when he was on PB, he ended up taking more of a supportive role, and he obviously didn't do that well. If they have him more on an entry role, I could even put them a little bit higher. But just because of how much of a playmaker he can be, and he's been around for a solid while, and he's been really talented on a solid while, on that Thunder Logic roster with, DP on that team. He's just been around for a while. He's a very good player. If they have him in the right spot, they'll be good. Razor, very talented player. I think Ben, in my strong opinion, I fucking love Ben. He's one of my favorite players in Pro League. But I think this stage, he needs to not be on entry. His entry numbers are really good. Entry engagements are good. They're low. He doesn't have high entry engagements, but they are good. He's in the positive. He's in the green on entry engagements. But I think with who they have on this team, I think he needs to either be on flex or somehow get good at a support role. I don't know if he's ever run it before, but they just have, they have Melted, they have Razor, and they even have Thomas. I think they just need to use those 3 as their fraggers and kind of let Benji set them up. But that's just my opinion on that. I don't know the inner workings of the team. I obviously can't say that until we see them on Tuesday. But I don't know. What are your thoughts about Mirage? We can go to Beast Coast after.
Well, like you said, I think it's a question of who's going to play that secondary support role for them. Because for me, it makes sense that it would be Tommy. Even though Tommy, traditionally wants to play that sledge role, I think it's easier to IGL when you're the one playing support, you're the one droning, you can see all the map on your drones. It's easier to call executes from that position, in my opinion. But if Tommy doesn't play support, then who's it going to be? Because it's not going to be Razor,
Yeah,
and Ben's their other entry. So at that point, it's got to be Melted. And like you're saying, I
he
think
doesn't
Melted
do
would
as
be better
well.
suited as an entry player himself. So I think, like you said, there's kind of a problem of they have good players, but can they make them work in this new system? And that's why, for me, I think Beast Coast is above Mirage, just because Beast Coast is going to have those defined roles. It's just, for me, the reason that they're so low is because I don't know how they're going to play, and whether if they play the Yardy system of Siege, where it's game day energy in your face, is that going to be consistent enough throughout a whole
I
season
just
to
don't
have
think it
them
will.
place top? And I agree. I think teams like TSM, SSG, Sonics, Oxygen, DZ, the teams that are structured and work well together are gonna not let that fly. Like, they're gonna capitalize on the mistakes and the gaps in their attacks and defenses. And even though I think all these players on these teams are immensely talented, it's just how they're gonna gel together and whether they're gonna work well together, basically, I guess. And
From
that's why I have BC above Mirage, because I think the in-your-face playstyle can get some rounds, and Yardy, he's a game day player. He turns up on game
He
day, as
does,
you
it's
saw
true.
from FPL
Look, stage
cleans.
stage 1, he did very bad. Um, with Xset.
But
Stage 2
I think
is
that's
obviously
because
doing
they
really
were
well.
trying to play. They were trying to play Tommy's style. Like Tommy ran the
Yeah.
team from what
Yeah.
it sounded like to me. I could be completely misreading that, but I don't see either of these teams having too much success in stage 1.
I think my main
in my
problem with Mirage, it obviously depends on what roles they play. But I think my main issue with the roles is going to be, in my opinion, Tommy might have to be on support. Just because from what I've heard about the roster, Tommy's IGLing and Razor's shot calling. Razor's got a loud voice. Razor's a loud dude. He talks a lot, which I think is really good. But I just think having both of your voices, as in him and Tommy, on entry, and not having a support be one of the voices, like I think Marm obviously has a way more of a voice than Melted does. So if Melted is on that support role, it's just gonna cause issues with not a support player having a loud voice. So I think really, look, this 9 and 10, I think is really like hard. I will even put them both at 9. I think if Mirage has the roles that I'm saying, if Tommy's on support and Razor's playing entry, you know, Ben's on flex and Melt is on entry, if that's what happens, you know, I think it'll be really good. They should be 9 over Beast Coast. I think if they fuck up the roles, which Emma is in the chat, she can kind of confirm those roles. But if they mess up those roles in that sense, where they have all their voices as their entries, I think that can be a huge clusterfuck. And they would be the worst team. But Emma, could you confirm, you know, role wise, and you don't even have to say much, but would Razor and Thomas both be on entry?
Razor, if I was making the roster, it would be Razor and Ben on entry,
I agree.
Melted flex, and then Tommy on second support, Marm on hard support.
I agree with that completely. Razor, Ben. All right, perfect. Yeah, all right. So I'll put this team at 9, just because of those roles.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I just don't like the way that Beast Coast was formulated. I don't think. I don't know. From what I heard, Yardy was the last one to get picked up, so I think it's really hard to assume that it's going to be his playstyle, his system. From what I know, Slash is IGLing. I think, in my opinion, I do love Surf, but I don't think he's going to do as well as certain people that they could have picked up. I still think he's going to be good. I just think he's not necessarily an X factor of their team. You know what you're gonna get out of Surf, and then you know what you're gonna get out of Sweater. Sweater's gonna play out of his fucking mind. That dude's gonna be fantastic. If he's not, they got problems. But I don't know, man. I just don't think this team is just gonna be any good. Like Emma said, yeah, Emma, I fully agree with you. Xset doesn't have a voice. That's why they're as low. It's just the amount of talent they have on their roster is just like it's too much. They are fucking gross. But I just think it's so hard to put Beast Coast above anybody right now until we see them. Because I just think from what we know of the players on their roster, it just isn't going to work as well as it should. Like the last time Slash was in Pro League was with OXG, and you'd look at OXG, they were way more structured. You know, that's the last time he was on that team or in Pro League. I think you look at that OXG roster and you look at this Beast Coast roster, and if it's the same system, this Beast Coast roster is not fully equipped to play that kind of style. So I just think it's a mix between two styles, and I just don't think it's going to go well. Like you have Yardy's aggressive style, and then you have, you know, Slash's more reserved, structured style, which I think is better, but I think for the most part, it's just going to be a clash of two systems that I just don't think is going to, you know, go too well. That's why I have them lower than Mirage.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely justifiable, but is that all we got? I can't really. Do we have anything else?
We do have our day one predictions as our last little segment.
Spend a lot of time on this, or are we
I don't think we do. I think we can kind of fly through it. These are our games for Tuesday. For anyone who does not know, it is the first play day of NAL for the year. And like I said, I'm very excited. I think the league is going to be very competitive. I think, you know, from 1 to 10, it's way more competitive than it was last year, even in stage 3. Outside of, like, you know, if the Beast Coast that I think is going to come out is the roster, then, you know, they might be a little lower, but I think their players are too good to be that bad, like, you know, that bad of a team. So, I just think it's a really competitive league. So I'm really excited to see all these games. I think obviously a couple of these games stand out to me really well. I think the OXG TSM game more than any of them stands out a lot. I think SSG XSET, it's going to be really exciting to see XSET against a really structured team. And then Astralis versus Sonics. Sonic struggles in best of ones, but it's going to be nice to see Astralis. It's basically the same team, but it's going to be a completely new system. So
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Sonic's, top 4 every stage. I disagree. I think they're the most consistent team in NA. But
I agree as
I
well.
think this week for me, like, there's not really too many questionable matchups.
I
We're
agree
keeping
with you
records, right?
100%.
What's the prize for who gets the highest win rate? Because I'm gonna have the higher win rate. I already know.
All right, I don't know about all that, brother. I don't know about all that, but we can
right.
we can talk about this at a future point. But
Week 1, who you got?
look, first game, I think we can both go, but I have PB winning.
Yeah, agree.
I just think PB is gonna come out swinging. I think BC also is a lot newer of a roster. It's a 5-man new roster, a lot like XSET. It's gonna take time. It's going to take time for the systems to kind of settle in. It's going to take time for Sweater. I don't think it's going to take as much time for Sweater, but it's a lot of new players to Pro League as well. You got 2. You have Surf playing on LAN for the first time and Pro League for the first time. You have, Sweater playing in Pro League for the first time, even though he's been playing T2 for a really, really long time. He's been playing at a high level for a really long time. I just think PB is a large advantage here.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus PB coming off of no intel. I think they are really good when they can have fresh strats. I think they're coming out with some new stuff that East Coast might not be able to adapt to. So for all those reasons, PB pretty easily, I think.
Yep. And we won't include this in our records, but would you have a score? What do you think the score's gonna be?
You want to do a score?
We can, but we don't gotta add that on our records.
I can't give score because I don't know what the map's gonna be. But if I had to say, I'd say probably 7-4 or 7-5. I'll go 7-4 if you need a hard.
I'm thinking 7-3. Maybe 7-4, like I said. I just think in that little range. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but not being able to know the map, and I think later on, when we get to later play days, we can kind of guess what maps. We can start seeing the map pools of certain teams. We can see what they want to ban, what they want to play, what maps they're good at. So I think we'll get a better idea of what maps are going to be later. So these are kind of going to be like, score-wise, going to be weird going into it. But, and obviously we can't really predict now what maps they're going to go to. But moving on, Astralis Sonics. I think this one's pretty straightforward as well, but I think it's going to be a lot closer.
Yeah, I'd say Sonics 7-5.
I 100% agree with that as well. I think Astralis really is going to come out swinging. I don't think they've had a ton of time with Forest and Call Out, but I think I just think they're going to do well, but playing against Sonics week 1 is just not going to be good, but I think they're going to keep it close. DZ Mirage.
Matchup. DZ.
I might have to disagree.
You're going for the upset?
I think I'm going to go for the upset here. It might be the only one I do, but
you're having your number 5 ranked team is going down to the number 9 ranked team first.
I think so.
Give me a break.
Look, it's tough. Look, I got to be different than you. We can't have the same 5 predictions, I got to throw a little wrench in. And of all the matches that there could be an upset, I think this would be the one. DZ is very inconsistent. Their players are very inconsistent. You don't know what kind of hyper we're going to get the stage. You don't know what kind of NJR we're going to get the stage. You don't even know what the roles are going to be. And Canadian has a system. He's had it for a while. I don't know. I think Mirage kind of matches up pretty well against them, especially role-wise. But we'll kind of see how it shakes up. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be 7-5. But I don't know. I think the only advantage that DZ really has here is map pool over Mirage. But DZ's also not a good attacking team in any way, shape, or form. And like I said, with the way that this map pool is starting to shape up, it seems a lot more of an attacker-sided meta than a defender-sided meta. So I just think Mirage kind of has a little bit of an advantage on that.
Fair enough. Next matchup, I think TSM. We're both going to agree on that.
I think we can agree on that. It's best of one. TSM has their bad history of best of ones, but
I think I could see an upset.
I could as well.
She has the talent.
I wouldn't even say it's that much of an upset. OXG is still a top 14.
Really good teams, but yeah, agreed. But I just think first week it's going to take some time for their pickups to get adjusted to
Look,
the new
yeah.
system, playing on land for newers. So yeah, I think TSM.
If
takes
this
that.
matchup happened later in the season, even the middle of the season, I would probably have OXG winning. I think TSM's also riding on the high of winning SI. They could struggle out of the gates. Stage one, they no question are the best team here, but they might struggle a little bit. They might not be. I'm not gonna say as hungry as these other
Yeah.
teams, but I think coming off of an SI win, you're obviously not putting in as much work. I think Sonics is going to be that team that's putting in the most work, just because they came so close to winning. Like SI, I think they trolled. They really should have gone to winners finals. They should have had a top 3. I don't think they would have beaten TSM, but I think for a team that comes so close, one that's been improving so much all year, I think they're going to keep going. But I definitely could see OXG winning this game. But you know what? Actually, I'm gonna do that one as well.
Spicing it up.
I'm gonna spice that one up as well. I'm gonna have OXG winning 7-4. I think Newers is gonna play really well.
7-4?
Yeah, I think Newers is gonna play really well.
My God.
But
all right.
whatever. This one I don't think this is even a question.
Yeah, SSG goes crazy.
Like I said, even with the shit talk earlier about SSG needing Houghton, I think that comes with the fact that I think Houghton will play really well. So there is that. But I don't know. I think SSG is going to be too much for Xset right now.
Agreed.
We
It's the
talked
first
about
week.
it. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I feel so bad for these teams that are like the first week they gotta play SSG, and they gotta play against yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough. Tough draw.
It
Definitely
is
for
very,
a brand
very
new
tough.
roster to have to play against a team that's been together for so long.
Yep. So same with Beast Coast. I think they got to play the new guys Parabellum. You're not really going to have anything on Parabellum. I mean, same thing goes though. You don't have any idea. You have no prep work on this other team. But
Yeah.
all right. We'll see. Look, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. We have guests to be determined, to be revealed. Stay tuned for that. We will go live semi close to after the matches are over. If they run late, we will go live directly after the matches are over. But our next episode will be Tuesday night. Thank you all for tuning in for the first episode of the prep phase. Thank you, and we will see you on Tuesday.